Greetings, beautiful people. I hope you're having a beautiful and blessed day. If you aren't, just remember, God loves you. I love you. You are so loved. All right, so today we're going to be talking about seasons and how there is a season for everything, and each season is different, in which each season brings change. But we're not talking about like literal weather seasons or time seasons. Well, yeah, I guess we're talking about time seasons, but more like spiritual seasons. And this is something that we're all affected by, and everybody's season is literally different, which is why I want to bring it up, because you never know what season someone is in. But of course, we have our natural seasons that bring changes as well, from fall, winter to spring and summer. Personally, summer is my favorite season. Stuff just seems to be better in the summer. Can we acknowledge that? Especially during Cancer season, but I'm not biased. But yes, seasons, we have our natural seasons, which are very important, of course. With spring brings lots of change, because we're coming out of a very cold time to like the shift between cold and warm, so cold and hot. And with spring brings rain showers that brings lots of life to the planet. It's kind of like a rebirth season. Then you have your summer where it's nice, bright, and thriving. I mean, I don't know how everybody's summers be, but my summers tend to be that way. Great season. Then you have the fall season where things kind of slow down, and the leaves are starting to fall, the trees become bald. And then you have your winter season, which is personally my least favorite season, because it just seems like everything be down bad in the winter. But to each his own. You got snow. It'd be really cold in the winter. I don't really know what be happening in the winter, though, I'm gonna be honest. That's my hibernation months. Like, literally the entire winter season, I be asleep. No, I be asleep. I tend to hide during that season, because it's not my favorite, I'm not gonna lie. But those are just the natural seasons, of course. What we're talking about is spiritual seasons, right? And with that being said, there are many seasons. You have seasons of ups and downs. And I actually had this dream where I kept like repeating the same thing, and it was going up and down. And I'm not going to go too specific or deep into the dream, but basically I kept trying to jump on this building, and I would fall off the building every time. And then I would dive into this deep blue sea. And every time I'd go to the bottom of the sea, I'd be shot back up into the sky, with this super bright light. And it was for a moment I was floating, flying, and then I would come back down. And the cycle just kept repeating. I'd go up, down, really deep down, and then really high up. And it just kept going and kept going until eventually I was like, you know what, I'm tired of doing this, and I woke myself up. But basically, what I got from this dream is in each season, in each time period in our lives, we're going to go through different things. Some seasons are up and some seasons are down, but that's how the cycle of life goes. There's no stopping change in time, and time is something that you can't buy. They always say time is money, but you can't buy time, so it's priceless. But in each season, again, seasons bring change, natural change, but also spiritual change. You're not going to be the same in each season, whether you realize it or not. There'll be little changes based off of what you've planted inside your garden. And sometimes when I think about the garden, I think about our minds and how our minds may be a form of a garden. And in that garden, we can choose to plant things or uproot things. And eventually these things grow up within us. So as children, whatever was kind of planted in you as a child, those things have now since grown up in you. So whatever problems, habits, or even qualities and talents that you have, those are all seeds and plants that were planted within you as a child. And now they've grown up to be whatever they are now. And that's, could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But basically, in each season, again, it's going to bring change. And whatever you plant in the current season that you're in is going to manifest and grow within the next season or the next couple of seasons. And I mentioned this on my podcast before, but with the seasons, you could go through a couple of down seasons, where you're just down. I don't want to say down bad, but like you're down, things are not going the way that you would want them to go. And then the next season after those two really negative, bad seasons where you have to learn something. And again, you go through seasons when it's time for you to learn something or gain something or change in a way. That's one of the huge reasons why we're on this planet, is to learn, however that may be. Or, I don't know. Everyone is different. But for me, I know one of my biggest things is just learning to love every individual on this planet, regardless of who they are, our differences, whether they think the same as me or think completely different. And it's been a journey, but I've come to really appreciate other people, and especially their minds. And I often think of people literally as having their own universe in their mind. And how can I judge a person knowing that their soul is so full and so unique and so beautiful? And that's been very helpful for me to just learn to love every single person, whether I know them or not. And that's why I always start my podcast with, I love you, and God loves you, because it's the truth. I've shedded that really ego way of thinking, as far as judging a book by its cover. My first podcast, if you've listened to it, then you know how I think as far as like souls and where true beauty is. True beauty to me is what's on the inside and not the outside. But basically, there's seasons where I actually feel like that, and then there's seasons where I don't feel like that. And every season brings change, again, based off of what you do in the current season that you're in. So there's going to be seasons of ups and downs. There's going to be seasons of pleasure and pain, but it's all a scale, and you're supposed to learn on each side, right? Where you may lose something, you're not really losing anything, because you're gaining something, whether you realize it or not. There's never really a loss if you think about it. It's all a gain. If you truly sit there and contemplate and ponder on some things, you will realize that you're actually gaining something more than you're losing anything. And again, everything happens for your highest good. So when it comes to each season, they're more than likely supposed to help you get to where you or not help you get to where you're supposed to be, but help you to become the best version of yourself possible. So there's a couple scriptures that I want to talk about here. All right, we're going to be reading out of Ecclesiastes 3. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. Honestly, I read this book 100 times and I still don't know how to pronounce it. My bad. But anyways, we're reading out of Ecclesiastes 3 through, I think we're going to go to 8 or 11. Maybe. I don't know. But we're starting at 3. All right, let's go. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So just reading Ecclesiastes 3 through 8, basically you're getting that in each season there is going to be change. Not each season is the same. There are some seasons where we want to love, and there's some seasons where we have hate. But here's the thing: when it comes to seasons, everything that is revealed to you negatively is there for you to kind of fix or consciously be aware of, right? So again, I talked about this on this podcast many times, but I'm a sinner saved by grace. I sin every day. I fall short of God's glory every day. I'm no better than any man on this earth. So I tend to realize my negative aspects of my being a lot. There's not one day I'm not going to be picking on myself and the flaws that I have. But here's the thing: I consciously make the choice to try to do better, or to fix, or to just become the best version of myself possible, which means I have to put off some of the terrible qualities I have, or traits or aspects of my being, the darker stuff, right? And I've talked about this in my Dark Night of the Soul podcast a while back, but there was a time where I wasn't consciously aware of the negative things about my character, or just my being, and these dark things that were within me. Then they were revealed to me in my college experience, and then I was like, oh, okay, I peeped. And then I had to go in and really start like casting some of these things out. And again, like, each season is different. As I read, there is a time to heal and there's a time to kill. Now, that doesn't mean literally kill, okay, guys? Doesn't mean kill, but like, it's on a spiritual time, right? And it's actually kind of interesting when you think about it, because biblically speaking, when it comes to the resurrection of Christ, God overcame natural death, right? Or Jesus Christ overcame natural death, same thing. Overcame natural death. But here's the thing, spiritual death still exists. Spiritual death still exists, and that is the last thing that God is going to be coming to get the victory over here on earth. Not the last thing, but one of the more important things that he's coming to get the victory over, because it's something that happens to people or his children literally all the time. It's crazy. I can't really say you can be spiritually killed, but you can definitely be spiritually put to sleep. And in my head, that's basically being killed, because when you're sleeping, you're kind of like a walking zombie. No offense, just being honest. But anyways, I didn't mean to go off there, or go off a tangent. But anyways, yeah. So there's a time to heal and a time to kill, and I don't mean like literally physically kill. So I was trying to explain what that. But when it comes to a time to heal, there's a season for that, right? All of these are just different seasons. Everything that I read is just a different season. There are going to be some seasons when you're down and you're really sad and depressed. Then there's going to be a season when you're so happy and there's just lots of joy and love in your life. But each season is different, and not every season is going to be the same. Now, if you get stuck in a cycle where you have to learn a lesson over and over again, which is kind of like the dream that I had last night, which was I kept doing the same thing over and over again until eventually I was like, all right, this is tired. But basically, I kept going up and down because I wasn't learning the lesson that I was meant to learn, and stuck in the same like loop basically. And then it felt like I was just repeating the same thing over and over, which goes for seasons. You may repeat the same season if you aren't learning the lessons that you are meant to learn. But here's the thing, that season is going to keep coming around until you get whatever you're meant to get out of it, right? And it may not come exactly right after the same season, or your current season, because I don't know what season anybody is in. And also, forgive me for saying season. I'm probably going to say it like 20-30 more times, so just get used to that. But I'm trying to get my little point across here. It's all different. It's all going to bring changes, but it's all necessary for our growth, my growth, your growth, right? And I used to struggle with this. I literally used to struggle with this, because I'd be like, God, why are you punishing me? Why are you making my life so miserable? Why blah, 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 blah. I just literally cry and complain. And I'll be honest, I lived in depression and just this really, really dark, negative headspace for like a decade of my life, based off of some of the stuff I went through as a child. A lot of traumas and just traumatic things happened to me as a kid. Well, not like a little kid, but as I got older, so like from 8 to like 10, around that area, or time. And then it just felt like every season after that was just dark and just really bad. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It was just, I was in this season of just pure death, and I felt like spiritually dead. Mentally, I was just exhausted. I mean, I was like 15, walking around like, dang, I don't like it here. Earth sucks. Like, God, get me off of this planet. That's literally how I felt. And I stayed that way all the way up until I was like 19 years old. So I was like 10 to like 19, or like 9 to 19 actually, because my depression started when I was like turning 9. So like 8 to 9, but really 9 is when it really hit, and then it carried all the way up until I was like 19, 20. But basically, I stayed in this depression, and I was just miserable and complaining and going at God, because I didn't understand why I was feeling this way. I didn't understand why he allowed the traumas to happen to me. Didn't understand why I almost died. Just all of this stuff, and none of it made sense. And then eventually, of course, God revealed things to me, and as I got older, a lot of clarity came, because then I was able to see things from a different perspective, but also with time, being able to be neutral about things. And it helped when 2020 came, because in quarantine I was able to really, really go within myself and just kind of see. That was a season and a time to heal. Honestly, quarantine for me, 2020 was a time to heal, and during that season I did the most maximum healing that I could possible. Like, I dealt with my traumas, I dealt with anxiety, I dealt with addictions, I dealt with all of that, and I overcame it, and that was very huge. So big win in 2020 for me. But now, or not that now, but like back then, I also went through this very like beautiful season of joy, which was so foreign to me. But I had like literally forgot what happiness was, like to the point where one morning I woke up and I literally started crying because I was happy to be alive. Like, that's the type of joy I had during this specific season in 2020, and it was like right before my birthday in July. Only because there was a time and a period where I thought I was never gonna make it to C21 or C22. Like, I was literally like just in awe, like, whoa, God, like I'm still here. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just this beautiful feeling that I got. And then it carried on for a couple of months, and I was like, I'd go outside and see a butterfly and shed a couple tears because it was so beautiful. And then August came in 2020, and my grandfather and my uncle passed away, and after that, the season of joy ended. And again, time brings change. So with this new season of lessons to learn and suffering and pain, I had to learn a lot, go through a lot, feel a lot. That was huge. But eventually the joy came back around, just in an altered way. It's not as, I'm not gonna say it's not as good as it was, like it was before, in the season before my pain and suffering, or whatever you want to call it, the down season. I like to say up down season. So a season up, a season of down. So I went through a down season, and then I had another up season, and it wasn't as beautiful and graceful and blissful as the season before that season. But the whole point is, with time brings change, and it's better for us not to fight these changes, but to embrace them and accept them. But obviously, in every season, there is going to be changes and differences. So it's not like you're going to be able to do this in every season. But just be mindful of where you are, what season you're in. If you realize that there's stuff that's kind of just going not your way, it's very negative. There's people coming in and out of your life, and those people are bringing things up within you, whether that's negative or positive emotions. Just be very mindful of that, especially because we're kind of in a time of an emotional time. And by that I mean Mars has entered Cancer, which means, listen, people are going to be a lot more in tune with their emotional beings. Literally, I don't know how else to explain it. You're probably gonna, well, not you're probably, you may, and not everybody's the same, but you're probably going to feel emotions and feelings just a little bit more deeply than normal, all the way up until June 7th, and then you'll feel completely fine after that. But you're probably going to feel things a little bit more deeply. Things are probably going to get to you, affect you more than usual, and that goes for every emotion, not just the negative ones, but positive ones as well. So if you're happy, you're going to be really happy, and you're going to feel these things for a while, because that is a sign of Cancer. We are the feelers of the zodiac. I mean, people call us sensitive, but I just say we're aware. We feel all the stuff that people tend to hide. But anyways, I didn't even mean to go take it there. But basically, yes, I did. It's a season. This is a season. It's just a time, right? A season is a time. Time is a season. Blah, 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 blah. Whole point is, each season is different. So be mindful of what season you're in. Not every season is going to be positive, up and happy and joy and all that. There's going to be seasons of down, but just realize that it's for a reason. It's for you to learn, for you to gain something, for you to overcome something, for you to realize something, for you to plant something good for the next season. Whatever you do in the current season is going to manifest in the next season. So if you're kind of stuck in a loop, or feels like you're in sinking sand in the current season you're in, what do you do to get out of it? You do the best that you can do. Heal yourself, maybe. I don't know. I like to, in my head, believe that we are somewhat an author or co-creator of our own stories. So at any moment in time, you can kind of switch it up, shift your paradigm, and do something different than normal. So if you do feel like you're in sinking sand, then maybe it's starting, maybe your down season becomes a season of healing, and you take as much time as you can during that season to better yourself and get yourself to a very safe or good mental state. Because listen, mental health is very important, and everybody suffers from mental health, whether you realize it or not. A lot of people just ignore it, or when I say, I'm not talking about like literal mental health, guys, but I'm talking about like, I'm talking about like depression and anxiety and just the mental game, you know, the stuff that goes on in the mind that makes everyday life just a little bit harder than it should be, right? That's what I mean by mental health. You just got to make sure your mental state is safe. I say safe, like, because the mental is fragile, and a lot of stuff can happen to crack your mind. So like, just be safe, you know. Be mindful of what you're listening to and absorbing on a daily basis, because it will take root and eventually manifest. That goes for movies and music that you're listening to, like all of that. Whoever you're listening to, people as well. Don't get gaslighted out here, because that's totally a thing. Be very confident and strong within yourself as far as knowing who you are in the Lord's eyes. Just do your best to like learn how to love yourself. I say, you can never go wrong if you're learning to love yourself and anyone else through any season that you go through, whether it's a season of up or down. You can never go wrong with that, because listen, love is magic. It really is. And God is love, and love is God, and it's the most powerful thing out there on this planet. It's probably the most powerful frequency in my head. I tend to try to jump on that frequency and stay there as long as I can, and for as much as I can, because it does make everything feel better. Like, I'll be very transparent with you guys, or not transparent, but real with you guys. I get emotional, you know. I tend to cry sometimes, but I always get in prayer, that is. I always get very overwhelmed with God's love when I realize that, you know, there's nothing that I have to be sad or mad about, or I don't have to allow it to affect me the same way. You know, I just kind of give God the glory about it and then go about my day and feel better. Sometimes situations don't even grant for us to give it that much energy or, you know, sad emotions, all of that. You know, some things can just be prayed away, you know, but to each his own. I don't know how someone may feel. You know, there could be a season where you're down to the point where you don't want to pray, or you don't want to call on God, or you don't want to do this or that, and that's completely fine. I've been in those seasons before too, so I understand. Not again, every season is different. There's going to be seasons where some people are really high, like really high, not literally high. Now I'm not talking about marijuana high, but I mean just high in life, right? And then there's going to be seasons where they're super low, and, you know, complete opposites of each other, like sun and moon type energy. Here's what I say: when you can balance that out, where you can be neutral in each season that you're in, you have now conquered life. And I'm just playing, but you're definitely in a really good space. I say that you're in a good space because when you can be just neutral in general in life, things won't affect you how they would normally affect you. But if you allow life to beat you up, it's going to whoop your tail, okay? Literally, it's going to drag you and beat you through the mud. Like, the world, don't play with the world. I'm being honest. The people out here are a little aggy, and it's hard to love them, but you got to, right? You got to. But it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Just be mindful of the seasons that you're in. Be careful about each season, because you never know what's going to happen. You know, time is pretty fluid, but it's crazy. You really do never know what's going to happen. As far as what's going on in the world, you know, be mindful of it, but don't to the point where you allow it to affect you and drive you crazy or knock you off track, because everything is as it should be. And I know that's very hard to hear, and especially with the state of the world right now. But this is all according to God's plan, however it may be. Do whatever you can, though, you know, continue to pray and whatnot if you pray. Continue to have hope if you have hope. Continue to keep your faith if you have faith, you know. Just do what you can. It's, again, stay neutral with things. Don't allow you to be tossed and fro with life, you know. Don't stay down in a down season, you know. If you're in a down season, do what you can to get up, you know. Hey, strength, all I can say is you've been through so many seasons already. So don't let the current season you're in get you down or keep you down. All right, you went through life, you've been here, you've been doing this. So don't allow life to bully you at all. Okay, you bully life back. And you tell life, hey, this is my life, and I don't have to feel this way. I don't know. Maybe don't tell it that. That's up to you. I'm just saying though, it is your life, and you can do whatever you want with it. I always say it's better to be happy than to be miserable. That goes for anything. I know, weird saying, but like seriously. Not every situation is going to grant you to be happy, but I mean, it's better. It really is. But yeah, I think this is the end of this podcast because I kind of didn't really go anywhere with it, but that's what I was thinking about. I was just thinking about all the seasons and how each season does bring change, and you never know what's going to happen in a season. But that's the beauty of life, right? Finding out stuff, discovering stuff, living, learning, growing. But yeah, I think that's it. You guys have a beautiful and blessed day. I hope I was able to bring some type of clarity to you with this season thing. If I didn't, I'm so sorry. I literally had just woke up, and that was like the first thing on my mind, and because of this dream, and I was like, you know what, let me just do a little podcast myself. I'm done, I swear. You guys have a beautiful and blessed day. I wish very many blessings on you, and I hope that you are able to have more beautiful and positive seasons in your life. Learn all the lessons that you can learn and grow as much as you can. Be blessed, and